There are moments in the lives of even the most powerful families on earth when all the titles, all the ceremony, and all the carefully constructed walls of public dignity simply fall away. What remains in those moments is something every person recognizes: the quiet terror of loving someone who is running out of time, and the weight of a promise made when words feel impossibly small. This is one of those moments. Behind the gilded gates of a palace that has stood through centuries of war, scandal, and triumph, a father sat across from his son and daughter-in-law and asked them for something he had never asked for before. He did not ask for loyalty to the crown. He did not ask for the continuation of royal duty. What King Charles asked for was far more human than any of that, and far harder to give. And when William and Catherine left that room, nothing between them or within them would ever be quite the same again. King Charles III has been many things to the world: the long-waiting heir, the divorced prince, the man who stood at his mother's funeral and bore the weight of an entire nation's grief on his face without flinching. But since February 2024, he has been something else too. He has been a man fighting cancer. He was diagnosed with cancer after a hospital procedure for benign prostate enlargement. And while Buckingham Palace stressed that the diagnosis was not prostate cancer, they declined to specify the type. In the months that followed, the king stepped back from public duties, continued his correspondence, and quietly began the work that no monarch openly discusses: the work of preparing for what comes after. Hello. In December 2025, in a rare video message broadcast on Channel 4 for Stand Up to Cancer, the king shared that because of his early diagnosis and effective intervention, his treatment would be reduced in 2026. He called it a personal blessing. He spoke with warmth, with characteristic humor, and with the kind of careful composure that had defined his public persona for decades. But those who know Charles, those who have watched him in private moments, understood something the television cameras could not quite capture. The reduction in treatment was good news, yes. But it was also a marker of time. A man does not begin thinking about last wishes because he has decades left. He begins thinking about them because he is finally honest with himself about the hourglass. Goss. And so it was that Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, were invited into a conversation that no amount of royal training had ever prepared them for. The details of what passed between them in that private meeting have not been fully disclosed by the palace, as is tradition with the most sensitive family matters. But from multiple sources close to the family, a picture has emerged, not of scandal, not of argument, but of something far more quietly devastating. A father making peace with his mortality and asking his son to carry a piece of his heart forward. Reports from insiders confirmed that Charles' final wish to William centers on the care of Queen Camilla, that when the time comes, when Charles is no longer there to protect her or speak for her, he wants William to ensure she is treated with dignity and given the security and respect that her position demands. It is, on the surface, a straightforward request from a husband who loves his wife, but within the complicated architecture of the Windsor family, it is anything but simple. Stallcaster. The relationship between William and Camilla has not always been easy. Insiders have noted that William has made it clear that his feelings toward his stepmother are complicated, and that over the years tension has existed between Camilla and Catherine over matters ranging from parenting style to palace politics. Royal watchers have tracked these undercurrents for years, careful not to overdramatize what is, in many ways, a very human family dynamic: the awkwardness of blended families, of loyalties that do not fit neatly into anyone's expectations, of a son who still carries the memory of his mother alongside the reality of the woman his father chose to love. King Charles is reportedly deeply concerned about the future of Queen Camilla, worried that after his reign ends, there could be tensions about her place within the royal structure. Stallcaster. The news. And this is what made the conversation in that private room so significant. Because what Charles was asking of William was not a formality. It was not a checkbox on a succession planning document. It was a father looking his son in the eyes and asking him to do something difficult, to set aside whatever complicated feelings he carries, whatever unspoken grievances linger from the years of Diana and Camilla and all that history still hums through, and to choose grace. To protect someone not because he loves her the way his father does, but because his father loves her, and that love deserves to be honored. For William, this was not a simple thing to hear. Those close to him have noted that he is a man who does not easily hide his emotional state. A man whose candor about not being in a calm state during difficult family moments has offered rare glimpses into the weight he carries. He has spent much of his adult life managing impossible demands. The expectation to grieve publicly but not too much, to be modern but not too modern, to honor tradition while convincing a skeptical public that the monarchy still means something in the 21st century. And now his father was adding one more thing to that already enormous weight. GB News. Catherine was there too, and her presence in that conversation matters, because in recent years it is Catherine who has quietly become one of the most important figures in the emotional life of the royal family. After attending the funeral for Catherine, Duchess of Kent, Catherine was photographed putting her arm on King Charles's shoulder, kissing him on both cheeks, and curtsying, a moment of warmth that spoke to the genuine affection that has developed between them. Hers is not the affection of political alliance. It is something more real, a woman who has fought her own battle with cancer, who understands from the inside what it means to sit with a diagnosis and wonder about your children's futures, who looks at her father-in-law and sees not just the king but a fellow human being navigating the most frightening kind of uncertainty. 8 News. Both Catherine and Charles were diagnosed with cancer in 2024, a coincidence of timing that created a bond between them that neither of them had anticipated. They became, in a strange and private way, companions in something that very few people in public life are willing to discuss openly. And so when Catherine sat in that room and heard Charles speak about his wishes, about his fear for Camilla's future, about the things he wanted to leave behind that no will could contain, she understood in a way that went beyond duty or protocol. She understood because she had spent her own quiet hours thinking about the same things, what she wanted for her children, what she hoped would remain of her when the difficult days were done, what she needed the people she loved to promise her. 8 News. William had already shown, in a birthday message to Catherine that broke from his typically private nature, just how much the last year had reshaped him, writing of the remarkable strength she had shown, and expressing publicly the kind of love that a man of his reserved character rarely allows the world to see. That message was not just about Catherine. It was a man processing loss and fear and admiration all at once, reaching for words because the situation demanded them. The private meeting with Charles was another such moment, a situation that demanded something of William that his royal training had not covered in any manual. Yahoo! At the first state banquet of 2026, held at Windsor Castle in March, observers had noted the stark contrast between the king and his heir. William and Catherine had arrived looking every inch the future of the monarchy, while those who watched closely said Charles seemed exhausted, that at one point he appeared small and frail in a way that had not been so visible before. The palace did not address those accounts, but they were consistent with what insiders were describing in private, a monarch who was still present, still working, still fulfilling his duties with the same stubborn commitment that had defined his mother's reign, but a man for whom the physical reality of illness was becoming harder to conceal. Sources noted that the palace had been consciously elevating and presenting William in a more authoritative manner, anticipating what's to come, though they were also clear that no power had been formally relinquished. Jubileecast. The list. And yet Charles had not grown bitter about that transition. If anything, what those close to him describe is a man who has found, in the face of his illness, a kind of clarity that the long decades of waiting had never given him. He had become king later in life than any British monarch before him. He had waited and served and stood just behind the throne for 70 years. And now, having finally worn the crown, he was confronting the truth that even kings must prepare to hand things on. The question was not whether that would happen, but what kind of man he wanted his son to be when it did, and what kind of family he wanted to leave behind. The shadow of Prince Harry's estrangement has also hung over these conversations. Sources have indicated that one of Charles's wishes is for his sons to reach at least a basic level of civility, that Harry believes if he and William can get to a point of civil communication, it will open many doors and make their father happy. Whether that reconciliation will happen in the timeline Charles is working with remains deeply uncertain. Harry has expressed intention to initiate some form of peace talks, wanting to be the one who reaches out, believing that basic civility between himself and William could fulfill something his father deeply wants. But wanting something and making it happen are very different things when years of public fracture and private pain stand between two brothers. The news. The news. What William and Catherine took from the meeting, sources suggest, was not despair. It was something more complicated and ultimately more valuable than despair. It was a sharpened sense of what actually matters. Charles had already been deeply moved in the months prior by William's own words and decisions, particularly around William's commitment to causes like homelessness and his plans to use royal resources for people in genuine need. The king had spoken, in his characteristically understated way, about how his son's choices had moved him. That mutual recognition, father and son finally seeing each other clearly, not through the fog of expectation and disappointment and public scrutiny, but as two human beings who love the same country and carry the same weight. That was the emotional core of what unfolded. Marie-Claire and Catherine, sitting beside her husband in that room, did what she has always done in the moments that count most. She held steady. She brought warmth to a conversation that could easily have become stiff with duty and protocol. She reminded everyone present, simply by being there, that the future of this family was not just institutional, it was human. It had children in it. It had George and Charlotte and Louis, who would one day look back on this period and understand, slowly, what their parents had carried and what their grandfather had given them. Charles's health as of mid-2026 has moved into a precautionary phase, with his treatment schedule reduced and ongoing monitoring in place. He has continued to maintain an active calendar of royal duties. He has shown up. He has kept going. And in doing so, he has modeled something that his family, and perhaps the country, needed to see. Not invulnerability, not denial, but dignified persistence in the face of something that cannot be controlled. Beautiful. The crown has always asked the people who wear it, and the people who will wear it, to sacrifice something deeply personal in exchange for something larger than themselves. It has asked them to perform grief and perform joy and perform composure in moments when no human being should be expected to perform anything at all. But what happened in that private meeting, whatever the specific words were, whatever promises were made or tears were shed, was something the crown cannot script. It was a family, with all its fractures and its love and its impossible history, sitting together in a room and trying to do right by each other before time makes the choice for them. William left that room with more on his shoulders than when he entered. But he also left with something he had perhaps been waiting for without knowing it, his father's full trust, offered not in a ceremony, not on a document, but in the simple and devastating act of asking for help. That, in the end, is what last wishes really are. They are not demands. They are a father saying to his son, "I know you are the one who will carry this forward. I need to know that you will carry it with love." And by all accounts, William and Catherine beside him said yes.